afternoon. I'm a little bit late today for the live. Usually we're going live at 11:15 a.m. I had to push it back to 2:30 today, this afternoon, and I apologize for that. Today, we're going to cover a few things depending on how much time we have. We're going to cover this Les Wexner, billionaire, who was implicated in some capacity, at least in terms of knowing Epstein well. Jeffrey Epstein well, was interviewed today in a closed-door deposition. I want to talk about some of the reporting about that today, and we want to look at. I honestly, as much as I try to stay on top to the extent that I can of what's going on with Epstein, I wasn't complete. I knew Les Wexner's name, but I didn't necessarily know more details about him. And so we're going to read some of the reporting and take this opportunity, at least for me, to further educate myself about who this guy is, who Les Wexner is. And we'll see some interesting twists and turns because there's a connection to Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan. And then if we have a little bit of time, I want to cover, because we haven't done this in a long time, for good reason, but I want to cover a little bit of Carolyn Leavitt's press conference today, because, that's always entertaining to just listen to her lie incessantly. And then we'll see. If we have time, I have a few more things in the background to cover. Let me just pull up the live stream here in, on my iPad so I can see who's here. And then we'll get going. Okay, there we go. So I've got that up there. So let's get right to it. So, by the way, guys, just a few scheduling notes, and I'll mention these a couple times before we wrap the live today. Apologies about yesterday. I know some of you certainly tuned in. The guest who was scheduled to appear with us was Jacob Ward. Jacob is a journalist. He covers the cross-section between technology and politics, among other things. We were going to talk about the surveillance state, the ICE surveillance state, which is fucking terrifying. Now that I've learned a good bit about it, but hopefully he'll put our minds at ease while he scares the living shit out of us. We had to reschedule. What happened was he's on the West Coast, I'm on the East Coast. We didn't realize that, so he thought that we were meeting at 1:15 Eastern time, or 11:15 Eastern time, and I thought we were meeting at 11:15. He thought it was Pacific time. I thought it was Eastern time, and that just didn't work out. So we are tentatively rescheduled for next Thursday. Because he's on the West Coast, I have to tease the time a little bit. So we'll be doing that. The live will be a little bit late. It'll be at 1 o'clock. Maybe we'll squeeze 2 lives in that day. I'll try my best. We'll see. But definitely keep that in mind. Join me for that for sure. It's going to be hey Jordan, it's going to be a really, really, really good conversation. The other guest that we have coming up next week is Salam Bhatti. Salam, someone I recently met. He is running. He's currently in a congressional primary in Virginia, and he is a progressive candidate trying to vie for a Virginia congressional seat. And he recently wrote a piece here on Substack that really, really caught my attention, talking not just about how Democrats certainly need to win the midterm elections, but what type of Democrats do we want? And primaries matter right now. So I think we're going to, and of course, I'm sure we'll talk about Trump and everything else. So he's going to be joining us on our Tuesday live at 11:15. So, and I'll advertise it a little bit more too, but definitely join us for those 2 lives. And sorry guys, I just shook the desk here because I kicked it by accident. And I'm starting to get more guests that I can reach out to that will be joining us. And I hope to kind of mix it up a little bit with my talking head babbling nonsense that I thank you guys forever for listening to. It's certainly group therapy for me, and I hope it provides some value to you. But the narcissist in me who loves to hear myself talk, thanks you for being here and for being a part of that, and we'll continue that. And to counterbalance that with interviews, as I have an opportunity to bring more and more people forward to interview. And then if the interviews, if we grow enough and it gets busier, we'll look at adding 2 lives a day. I'm not quite, thank you, Angie. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I'm not quite sure how it's all going to play out. Everything's kind of happening and it's new to me. And much of the connections I'm getting now are through the chorus program. And just networking through not just folks in chorus, but politicians outside of chorus. So it's really been great. And it's really opening up a new world for this community, for me. So I'm very thankful for that. Lastly, just a programming note, we are going to cover the State of the Union live. So I'll be here covering State of the Union. I'll have all the sound effects ready to go since the Village Idiot will be speaking. And I don't have any certainty yet, but through the course program, they're trying to set up interviews for us. So hopefully I submitted my list of dream members of the Congress and the Senate who I would love to interview right after that, after the State of the Union. I don't know if I'm going to get any one of them or anyone at all, but we'll, I'm keeping my fingers crossed and I'll keep you guys posted as we get closer. But we're definitely going to be live streaming that evening. So please, if you're free, join me for it. It's always more tolerable to watch it together. Anyway, to today's news. Les Wexner testified today behind closed doors at the House Oversight Committee. Now, I'm sure you all know, but just a reminder, if anybody may have forgotten, the House Oversight Committee, which is controlled by the Republicans, is really just an extension of the village idiot Donald Trump's and sociopath Pam Bondi and Attorney General sociopath Pam Bondi and Deputy Attorney General Dingbat Todd Blanche. It's just an extension. The House Oversight Committee right now, at least the Republicans that control the committee, are really nothing more than an extension of the cover-up, the Epstein cover-up. I did not see that, Angie. I saw when I was prepping for it, because I was kind of in meetings, and then I was kind of digging into, prepping for the live today after those. And then we did a daily briefing with Chorus today where we sort of get all the updated news of the day. And I guess, I hadn't seen any reports about imminent war with Iran, but then I did see some quick headlines, but I didn't really go into it yet. I didn't follow up on it, so I have no idea what's going on at this point, to be honest with you. So if you know, let me know. But I can't comment on it. We can look at it in real time today as well. But I should know. But I've just been all morning. I've been doing other stuff, so I don't know where we stand right now with imminent war with Iran. But let's cover less a little bit, the Wexner news, and unless of course it's happening now, unless the fucking imminent war has started, then let's switch gears immediately. But we'll dig into it and look a little bit, because that's always, the idiot going into a war with the village idiot Donald Trump as the commander in chief is the great nightmare. The great nightmare. In 2016, when that imbecile was first elected, I said to my wife that night, when both she and I were not able to sleep and we felt like we were going to throw up when Donald Trump beat Hillary Clinton because we knew it was coming, I said to her, the two things that would be a disaster, God willing, let them not happen, is a pandemic or a war. Well, we've already had the fucking pandemic, and we saw how that turned out with him at the helm, and a war, God forbid, with that idiot. Irish Shaggy, no, I didn't yet. My wife, the antibiotics are at the, we use a pharmacy at the hospital where my wife works at, and she was off site yesterday. She had to go to another a couple days a week, a couple times a month, she has to go to a satellite, another hospital, which is a satellite site for her department. So she wasn't there to pick up my my antibiotic. And remember, Aggie, so she's gonna bring it home. Well, today she's off. She's helping my in-laws move, but tomorrow she'll be back at work, so she'll grab it for me. But remember, Dr. Kushner told me that it's up to me if I want to take it or not. And as of today, I'm leaning no because it feels like it's getting better. So I don't know. Anyway, um, Angie, what do you have? Supposedly his partner with this is Israel. No surprise anyway. Thank you for looking into it. When you're done with the live, I'm going to try to look into it too. Great. So we'll check it out. And we know Israel is pushing for an attack on Iran. So we'll dig into it. So who was Les Wexner? Ironically, there's always, not ironically, but there's always some piece of the Epstein files, of the Epstein. I'm sorry, guys. My son's home from school too this week. Yes. You okay? You can. Yes. Yep. You can. So there's so much news so frequently. There's too much news all the time for my brain to process. So in order to understand what's happening with everything, I have to kind of leave out some things. And as we kind of move through a news story, if there's something that in a certain moment seems unimportant to me, whether it is or not is another story. But as I'm perceiving that story of the moment, if there's something that strikes me as unimportant, I'll kind of dismiss it and I'll focus on the story, but this detail or that detail, I've trained my brain to filter that out for better, but usually for worse, right? I've trained my mind to just disregard that. And although I've been hearing about Les Wexner, and I understood from the Epstein files that he was an alleged co-conspirator with Jeffrey Epstein in some capacity, and I knew that he was a billionaire, I still didn't really process who he was and what his participation was. Now, this is I'm not saying that you guys did or do the same thing. This is Tony, this is a completely random thing that I do in my own mind. And I not infrequently do I realize that I disregarded the wrong thing. And I should have picked something far less important to disregard. I would say 70% of the time, the thing in a news story or the repetitive thing about a news story that I disassociate myself with and ignore turns out to matter. And then I get caught with, with a terrible case of FOMO because I realized I totally missed out and I don't know what everybody's talking about. And that's embarrassing and humiliated if you're a political creator, if you consider yourself an in-the-know political influencer, and there's shit that everybody knows about that you don't. And when my 88-year-old mom, who I don't infrequently talk about on this live, who hates Trump with the venom of 1,000 cobras, says to me, "Who the hell is this Les Wexner son of a bitch?" And I don't have an answer for her. That's unacceptable. So, and that conversation happened this morning. It's like, Ma, I know who he is, but I don't really know who he is. Tune into my lives. No! She doesn't really know how. That's okay. I'll tell her later. So what I know, and I'm learning more, is Les Wexner is a billionaire. He is an alleged co-conspirator that is mentioned as a co-conspirator in the Epstein files. He may have been a person who funded Epstein's sex trafficking ring. Um, you know, I don't know. But he testified today before the House Oversight Committee behind closed doors with the Republicans, who are just an extension of the village idiot Donald Trump trying to cover up for the Epstein files. But fortunately, we have good, qualified, sharp Democrats on that committee. Let's read some reporting about Les Wexner. If you can bear with me, and let's assault, my ignorance with facts, and let's learn together. I did read this really quickly before I came on the live today, but again, I'm always transparent with you guys. It was sort of a read because I had to read it, and I didn't take in any of it. I read it, and I found a couple of links that we're going to look at, but I did not read it. I read the words, but they meant nothing because I was trying to rush to get the live going. So let's just do this together. Gamer Vet Dad, do you have some stuff for us? He was also responsible for fashion styles for young girls in the early 2090s. Well, we're not there yet, but to early 2000s. Well, he was the CEO of whatchamacallit, Victoria's Secret, right? You know what happens, guys. I get sidetracked and then I never get to the story. But who is there's a pop singer. I never see her anymore, right? But she's freaking awesome, right? She grew up on TikTok. Like, she became a star on TikTok. And again, I don't see her anymore. I don't know where she is. She started just playing piano or playing keyboard and singing on TikTok. Maybe in her early 20s, mid 20s. She became a star. And she would write these songs. She would write these different songs and sing them on TikTok. And eventually she grew. And then she wrote a song about, I guess it was about Les Wexner. I just realized that. About Victoria's Secrets. And I own, do you guys know who I'm talking about? And I'm not going to try to sing it for you because I don't really remember the words, but anyway, she got married on TikTok, not on TikTok. She got pregnant on TikTok, and now I don't see her anymore. Irrespective, billionaire businessman Les Wexner is testifying about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein in a closed-door deposition before a House committee looking into his prominent mentions in the Epstein files. The House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform voted last month to subpoena Wexner, who was a longtime client of Epstein's and widely considered a key figure who facilitated the convicted sex offender's connections to the rich and powerful. Now, I don't know in this, I don't think, because now if memory serves me, we'll read a little bit more. When in this article, I don't think the journalists Clarissa Jan Lim and Juliana McShane are saying here that he was a client of Epstein's for the trafficking of young girls. They're not saying that he's not, but I think she means he was a client of Epstein's financial consulting. And I think now it's starting to come back to me that he paid Epstein, if he's the right one, an extraordinary, like an almost an unthinkable amount of money for those financial consulting services, which I guess is what sort of got him onto the FBI and federal prosecutors' radar when they were looking at Epstein. Wexner, founder of the company that once controlled the Limited, Victoria's Secret's, Pink, and Bath and Body Works, was named in several documents in the Epstein files, including at least one that refers to him as a co-conspirator. I have that document here. That's not it. That's not it. That's not it. This is it. So here's the document. I just put a bunch of tabs up, guys. Wexner is right here. There's information redacted up here, but this, document suggests that Leslie Wexner, that he's a co-conspirator. That was the link to the document from the Epstein files. There's no more information about it. It just says Jeffrey Epstein. I don't know what all this. Jeffrey Epstein, victim death investigation, family and associates, and co-conspirator. Now, it's not this document. Again, I don't know anything about this document. We'll have to see some analysis. This is where these moments where I hope we. I'm looking for my legal analyst because I really would love to get one. Katie Fang does not answer my DMs. I get it, Katie. You probably get a million of them. I'm hoping we have some lawyers in our cohort, and I'm hoping I can find one of them to be our resident, legal analyst. But right now it's just me. So you got to deal with my efforts to try to explain this stuff when I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. But this document it does suggest this document is not, suggesting that the FBI or the Department of Justice, the FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigation, internal document, that these are alleged co-conspirators. I don't think, because this is family and associates and co-conspirator. I mean, it's Leslie Groff. We don't know who this person is. We don't know who this person is. The redacted Elaine Maxwell, Jean-Luc Bernard, another co-conspirator, Leslie Wexner, Karna Sholok. I remember Gamer Vet Dad. The question was, this document, this FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigation internal document, I don't even know if and whatever all this is up here, whatever that is. What I'm trying to figure out is if this document means that these are just people that the FBI alleged were co-conspirators, or are these people, does this document say, because you have the word co-conspirator, is this document saying they are co-conspirators? End of story. That they did it. I don't know. The document is August 15th, 2019. For, whatever that means. Epstein was convicted by that point, right? So does this mean that these were co-conspirators? And if it was, why were none of them charged? I don't know. It's something to think about. But while we wait for Gamer Vet Dad to kind of look for that stuff, let's get back to the Strep is a situation report. SitRep looking. Take your time, Gamer Vet Dad. And what is a situation report? The House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform. Wexner, blah, blah, blah. One of Wexner, founder of the company that once controlled the limited Victoria's Secret, Pink, and Bath & Body Works, was named in several documents in the Epstein files, including at least one that refers to him as a co-conspirator. One of Epstein's prominent accusers, the late Virginia Giuffre, said in a deposition that she was trafficked to Wexner. So that's something I should have known, but I was ignoring Wexner. I was because I wasn't able to dial in on all the information. So Giuffre, Virginia Giuffre, made the point that she was trafficked to Lex Wexner, which clearly alleges that not only was Wexner connecting Jeffrey Epstein to the rich and powerful. Whether or not he was funding Epstein is a different story. We know he was paying Epstein exorbitant fees for financial services, but from Giuffre's accusation, which there's no reason not to believe Virginia Giuffre. When she was alive, unfortunately, she took her life. If she took her life in February, if she wasn't killed, but all things seem to put, at least her family doesn't seem to be buying into the idea that she was murdered. So when before she took her life, She did so much good work, and and broke so much news and so much ground about the Epstein sex trafficking ring when it was very dangerous for her to do so. She was such a courageous, heroic soul. There's no reason to believe less Wexner over her. So, as far as I'm concerned, he certainly engaged in sexual abuse of at least one of Epstein's victims, who was Virginia Giuffre. Wexner has not. You know what's crazy too? Before I go on, guys, and some of you can probably guess what I'm going to say, but we have criminal investigations going on in France, going on in Norway, going on in Poland, um, going on in Great Britain, and maybe even more in other places, that other countries that we don't know about. There's probably civil litigation brewing in all of those countries. And yet you have a guy here in the United States of America who is a billionaire who got to go to sit and be interviewed by the House Oversight Committee by powerful politicians like James Comer, who are effectively protecting him, right? And obviously, you have the village idiot Donald Trump and his Department of Justice, because it is his Department of Justice. It doesn't exist as an independent agency at this point, who are actively, under no circumstance that I can possibly think of, would they do what's happening in these other countries? Would they investigate Les Wexler? Yet he is named as a co-conspirator by the FBI in that document that we read, right? He is credibly accused of actually sexually abusing a minor at the time. And that's when Virginia Giuffre was young, when she was a child, when she was a teenager. And you would have, anywhere else, good prosecutors would be looking into this now. But instead, this guy he's not just being protected, but he's being protected in broad daylight, right? Right in front of our faces. They're taking the rapist and they're putting him on display for all of us to see. And you have one side of immoral creeps who are afraid of the village idiot Donald Trump, who are trying to make the argument that he's innocent, pure as the driven snow, right? And it's such a weird moment we're in, right? Where the rest of the world has woken up and they are criminally investigating the people who allegedly perpetuated these horrific crimes. And we are, I don't know, propagandizing them. Not we, us. I'm talking about the collective we as a country, even though most of the people in the country aren't behind it. And it's fucking crazy. So let's just read what Gamer Vet Dad here has about that document. It was an internal investigative update document used with law enforcement. It's an internal report, most likely to a superior or responsible investigative team. Couple of parts here. Part 1 of the document refers to 2 cases: Epstein, death investigation; Epstein, child sex trafficking. Let me just pull up that document again while we're reading about this. So this is the part where Gamer Vet Dad is talking about the Epstein death investigation. Well, I guess I guess this top part, this part is the death investigation. I guess family and associates and co-conspirator. I'm not sure, but So this would be part one, I think, that Gamer Vet Dad's talking about. This is part two. Part two, section A, titled Family and Associate, is identifying individuals labeled as co-conspirators, associated individuals connected to the investigation. Part three, for each listed person, the document includes the date of birth, citizenship, place of birth, location, case type, case initiated, intelligence sources, helmet fissure, and I don't know what that means, financial intelligence, and liaison, access to weapons. It's an incomplete report. Okay. Why? Well, that's the, so that's the interest. That's a great, thank you for that last comment, Gamer Vet Dad, because I never, we can see there's a lot of shit that beside the redactions, there's a lot of incomplete things here. Why? Maybe, whoever put it together did it in a rush and just put in what they needed, because maybe they just created the document because they, it was something that they needed, but they didn't really matter. Like, you ever fill out, half-assed fill out a document that doesn't matter? You just put in only what you have to get rid of it and get it out of the way for some reason. Or was the FBI told to back off of this and make it an incomplete report? I don't know. HUMINT, human intelligence, and fissure is fixed surveillance. Awesome. Thank you, Gamer Vet Dad. So Lacey, how is he still walking free if Virginia accused him? He was never even questioned or indicted. Well, that's Lacey. I think we're, you're touching on the very point that I think it was a very specific, question about exactly what we're talking about here, right? You're digging down into the micro, and you're right. Why is this document incomplete? Out of convenience or out of cover up with Wexner, you have a credible allegation that was clearly followed up on by the FBI and the Department of Justice, right? We think, at least the FBI, right? Why wasn't if you follow the trial and these were clearly co-conspirators, right? Why wasn't Wexner investigated? Excellent questions, and I don't know the answer. Wexner has not been charged with any wrongdoing. He has repeatedly denied Jeffrey's accusation, saying that by the way, also, one of the things that, I'm never going to get through this, the hell I roll, guys. But I caught some news a couple days ago that there was, and I think we talked about it on the live, or we might have talked about it. I don't remember. I might have talked about it in our daily briefing with Chorus. I don't remember where I talked about it, but there was some news that quietly, and I don't know if this was Massey and Kahana. I don't remember which members of Congress were pushing for this bill. But there was legislation. We talked about it with Arik Fudali. Remember last week when we had the interview with Fudali, the attorney for the Epstein victims, for 11 of the Epstein victims, and I had brought up this news about legislation. I think it was called the Virginia Act. It has a more formal name, but named after Virginia Giuffre, where and I think it's Massey and Ro Kahana Thomas Massey and Ro Kahana that were bringing it forward, I think, and it was a legislation to get rid of the statute of limitations on federal sex trafficking crimes, which Fudali told us was 10 years, which I wouldn't, and I was shocked by that, because I would imagined it would be like murder, where there's no statute of limitations, but there is. So, they're trying to do that, obviously. So when the Trump administration is no longer in power, and we have a Department of Justice that's actually focused on justice and not covering up for the village idiot Donald Trump and being his personal revenge office, prosecutorial revenge office, that as both legislators and especially prosecutors, federal prosecutors, investigate this and determine if a guy like Les Wexner is criminally liable, that the statute of limitations doesn't or hasn't run out, that he can be held accountable. Fudali had no idea if that legislation was going to go anywhere. I politically, but his job isn't to discuss the politics; it's to discuss the law and this and where the victims are with everything. I don't think it will go anywhere unless it becomes big news, and unless there's a push up. The push up comes from the people, and it goes to social media, and then it moves up into legacy media, and then members of Congress get on top of it, and they further the narrative, and then legacy media picks it up, and then it becomes a story, and then that's how the Epstein Transparency Act was moved forward. It becomes a story that invariably becomes, in the case of the Epstein Transparency Act, law. So we'll see what happens, but there is that question of, even if Les Wexner were to eventually be, investigated, would there be a statute of limitations that would protect him? Hopefully not. GamerVet Dad, this looks like a planning report where they have names, but nothing was initiated yet. Kind of like a shopping list that you haven't left. List that you haven't left the house yet. Thank you. That makes sense, GamerVet Dad. Thank you for clearing it up. So it's not a document that says that these were 100%. These are the co-conspirators. These are the people the FBI should be investigating. These are the people that federal prosecutors should be building a case against. It was, a centralized document where they put what they had onto a piece of paper, or in this case, onto a computer, and they were able to work out of. That's what it sounds like to me. I think that's what you're saying, GamerVet Dad. Anyway, Wexner has not been charged with any wrongdoing. He has repeatedly denied Giuffre's accusation, saying he had no knowledge of Epstein's abuse. I don't believe him. That's not something that would be in a court of law. That's just my opinion. I think he's a liar, and I don't believe him. I believe Virginia Giuffre. Wexner has said that he cut ties with Epstein after the late financier was indicted on sex crimes in Florida. Maybe that's true. Maybe that's not. In his opening statement to the committee provided to MS Now, by his spokesperson, Wexner reiterated his denials of any wrongdoing in relation to Epstein. He said he was naive, foolish, and gullible to put any trust in the late financier. I was naive. He raped Virginia Giuffre. Based on what she said. I believe her. So a rapist who rapes is never naive, foolish, and gullible. They're fucking guilty. And they're animals. So instead of naive, foolish, and guilty, gullible, I would rather see him say, I did it. I apologize. I'm ready to face accountability. I was disgusting. And I'm ready to, face accountability and apologize to the victims and try to find a way to become a decent person. I realize that's, a pipe dream, but that's what I would like to see. Quote, so I guess this is what Wexner was saying, to my enormous embarrassment and regret, I, like many others, was duped by a world-class con man, the statement reads. I cannot undo that part of my personal history, even as I regret ever having met him. End quote. He might regret having ever met him because he got caught. Wexner is now caught, and Wexner is a sexual predator at least once, right? So he may regret that he ever met Epstein now because now he's caught, and now at least to some limit, in some limited capacity, has to answer for it, and he's probably a little worried because, like the rest of us, he's probably not a dumb person, and he probably knows that Donald Trump will not be president of the United States forever, and Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche will not be in positions to protect him forever. This is a developing story. Please check back for updates. So that's the deal on Les Wexner. Now, just for the sake of connecting the dots, and I have to wrap the live in just a bit, guys, because I have to take my son to swim practice today. But I wanted to get to this local story that I came across. And I had seen, some mention of this on social media, probably on Blue Sky, and I did pay attention to it. But I didn't really, again, there was too much in my brain. There was too many other things. So I didn't dive into it. But I chose to, this piqued my interest because I remembered it as I was preparing for the live today and reading about Les Wexner. Lex Wexner attorneys, this was back in January 28th, 2026. So it's a month ago, almost a month ago. Les Wexner attorneys asked judge to quash subpoena in OSU sexual assault case. Does that ring a bell? I mean, I gave you guys a little hint at the beginning of the live, right? That certainly rings a bell, doesn't it? What other person do we think of when we think of the OSU sexual assault case, at least as it pertains to this live? Do we necessarily think first about the sexual abuser at OSU? I can't even remember his name. We'll read about it in a minute. No, Richard Strauss, right? I don't even remember Richard Strauss's name, right? But I do remember Jim Jordan, right? That's why we call him Jim, GYM Jordan, because of Jim Jordan's, because of the fact that there is ample reporting now and evidence to suggest that Congressman Jim Jordan, the head of the Judiciary Committee, the Freedom Caucus, zealot, Donald Trump lover, fast, loud talking, saying nothing, thinking he's the smartest guy in the room, who, with the exception of this picture, almost never wears his jacket, which I don't really care about, but I just thought I would say that because that's been a thing, right? That Jim Jordan, right? Jim Jordan knew, he was a coach, right, at the time. He knew that this guy was raping, abusing young men on the wrestling team. He didn't do anything about it, right? Let me just read this for a second, okay? We're not going to read the whole thing. Survivors of Dr. Richard Strauss say Ohio Republican U.S. Rep. Jim Jordan knew about the sexual abuse the student athletes suffered, according to HBO's new documentary, Surviving Ohio State. Jordan declined to be interviewed for the documentary, but his name is frequently brought up by former Ohio State wrestlers and a referee. The documentary came out last month. Over the years, Jordan has repeatedly denied having any knowledge of the abuse. Quote, to say that Jordan knew nothing, that nothing ever happened, it's a flat-out lie, former Ohio State wrestler Dan Ritchie said in the documentary. Strauss sexually abused at least 177 male victims between 79 and 96 during his time as physician for Ohio State Athletics Department at the University Student Health Center. Strauss retired in 1988 and died by suicide in 2005 when he was 67. Jordan was an Ohio State assistant wrestling coach from 1987 to 1995. Chairman Jordan never saw or heard of any abuse, and if he had, he would have dealt with it, said Russell Dye, spokesperson for Jordan. At one point in the documentary, Ritchie said Jordan claimed, quote, if Strauss ever did that to me, I'd snap his neck like a stick of dry balsa wood. He's the one tough guy, that Jim Jordan. In the documentary, wrestling referee Fred Feeney shared his experience with Strauss sexually assaulting him in the shower after a wrestling match. He said he told the Ohio State wrestling coach, Russ Hellickson, and Jordan that Strauss was masturbating beside Feeney in the shower. Jim Jordan, quote, Jim Jordan looked me straight in the face and said, it's Strauss. You know what he does, Feeney said in the documentary. Jordan turned to politics after coaching, so forth and so on. Let's just see what Jordan said. I've stood up to the FBI, Jordan said when pressed by NBC4 reporter Colleen Marshall in a clip from the documentary. I stood up to I could just hear him saying this. I can't do a good Jim Jordan. I stood up to the IRS. So if I thought there was something wrong if I knew there was something wrong happening, I would have stood up for them. I got to work on my Jordan. There was no truth to the fact that I knew of any of the abuse, Jordan said in 2018 during a press gaggle with Central Ohio reporters. I talked to their coaches. They didn't know about me and any abuse. It's just not accurate to say those things that we know of it and didn't report it. It's just not true. And then Jordan probably went to some other thing. But that's enough of that. So Jordan said that, right? But, and maybe this has nothing to do with Jordan. I don't know. Maybe there's no dots to connect. It's possible. But it's weird, right? Lex Wexner attorneys asked judge to quash subpoena in OSU sexual assault case, right? Lawyers representing New Albany billionaire Les Wexner are asking a judge to quash a subpoena, calling Wexner to testify in a case regarding a former Ohio State doctor who sexually abused athletes for 20 years. Former athletes are suing Ohio State, alleging the university failed to protect students from Richard Strauss, a former OSU physician who sexually assaulted hundreds of male athletes under the guise of medical checks. After months of attempts to subpoena Wexner were blocked by security at his New Albany estate, federal judge Michael Watson allowed plaintiffs to serve the billionaire through the mail this month. So his billionaire's security detail wouldn't let the process servers deliver the subpoena. Oh, so it'll go away. And finally, a judge is like, fuck that. Just mail it. On Wednesday, Wexner's attorney, whatever his name is, filed a motion asking Watson to quash the subpoena. Little said Wexner does not have knowledge of the Strauss case and claimed the subpoena was a push for media attention, so forth and so on. So I don't know if there's a connection in the dots, but I do know that Jim Jordan is doing his damnedest to protect Donald Trump any way he can. I don't know what Jim Jordan has or hasn't said about the Epstein situation. I don't know. I've been following the Oversight Committee and Jim Comer, but I haven't been following Jordan's response to Epstein. So I don't know if but Jordan, let's just take a quick look. I do have to go, but let's just take a quick look. Let's just do a quick Google search. Let's just do Jim Jordan and Epstein and see GOP leaders split on Bondi's use of the files. Jim Jordan struggles on Epstein files surveillance. Jim Jordan struggles with the basics of hypocrisy. Jordan on Epstein files. Let's just see I'm just curious. In recent days, member of Congress may have gained access to Jeffrey Epstein materials that are not available, blah, blah, blah. Those lawmakers have physically, blah, blah, blah. But on Wednesday, the story took an unexpected turn. Pam Bondi was photographed with a printout showing one of Democratic Congressman's search history. It appeared, blah, blah, blah. They were Democrats were furious. Jordan has the entire story up. House Judiciary Chairman Jim Jordan said it was pretty rich to hear Democrats complain about surveillance after what that's not what I'm looking for. It's nonsense that Jordan is babbling about. I was just thinking maybe we would get some insight on where Jordan stands in terms of the Epstein files, if there's a through line, and maybe there's not. I'm not saying there is. All I'm saying is there's a through line, but there may be no dots to connect. But we've seen through lines and dots connect later on. So is there some through line between Les Wexner, OSU, Jim Jordan, and Epstein? Is there any connective tissue um, through that line of sight? Um, and maybe not. And maybe if there is, when the day finally comes that the rest of the Epstein files are released, we'll see that, or maybe it's nothing. But I just feel like it's worth noting. That's all. It's being reported that no Republicans were at his deposition. Really, Gamer Vet Dad? That surprises me. Let's deposition. I can't imagine Republicans. Let's just see if there's Ohio Republicans donate to Wexner campaign. Denied everything. Dems blast Wexner for downplaying. I just want to see were Republicans at the Wexner. That would be wild if that's true. If that reporting turns out to be accurate, it would be wild. I can't imagine it, though. You know what I mean? Thank you, Irish Aggie. Be well. Take care. Yeah, I'm not seeing any. We have to let me kind of look that up a little bit, because I am curious about the Gamer Vet Dad, and let me know what you see. If you see some, follow up reporting, or if you have a chance, can you DM me the reporting that you've seen about the Republicans not being there? I feel like that would be a big story, though, right? Like, I feel like that would be, I feel like that would be like the story, right? I don't know. Let's keep looking, because that's interesting, guys. All right, guys, I have to go. I'm so sorry. Thank you so much for being here. I'm sorry to cut everything short, but I do have to take my son to swim practice. Some quick messages. I mentioned them at the beginning of the live. I want to book on them at the end of the live. Our interview yesterday with Jacob Ward. Jacob and I got the reason that Jacob didn't show up is we miscommunicated. We got our time zones crossed. He thought he's on the. I didn't realize he's on the Pacific time. On the West Coast. We're on the East Coast. He thought it was 11:15 Pacific. I thought it was 11:15 Eastern. So he was ready to go 3 hours later. I did see him at our daily briefing afterwards, and I did. We were emailing back and forth throughout the day. So we're tentatively scheduled now for Thursday, this coming Thursday at 1:00. I have to go a little bit later than usual because to accommodate for the East Coast, the West Coast. So we'll be doing that live on Thursday at 1:00. I might double up and do an 11:15 and then a 1. I just don't know if it's going to be too much. I just have to kind of play it by ear. But definitely 1:00, and you don't want to miss this one, guys. In terms of prepping for this interview, I just scared the shit out of myself. Like, when you learn what is going on with ICE and what they have in terms of surveillance, it's pretty fucking scary. And I'm hoping Jacob can talk me off the edge of the cliff right now, because I am freaked out by this. But yeah, just from his reporting about this and learning about it, it's some shit. So definitely want to join us. And on Tuesday at 11:15, I just have to look at the gentleman's name. Salam Bhatti is going to be with me. Salam is a primary candidate. He's a congressional primary candidate in Virginia right now. He is. I don't know if he's a red. I'll know more. I'll do some research and know more about what his district is like. But Virginia is he wrote a piece here on Substack. You can catch it. I notated it not too long ago, and I'll put a note up again about how in our upcoming primaries, how important they are, and not to sort of sleep on the primaries, because not only on the one hand, yes, we need to win the House and the Senate to save democracy, which we will do, Democrats will do. But if you want to go further, if you really want to take advantage of the moment and the opportunity, what kind of Democrats do we want to win the House and the Senate? And he makes the argument for progressive Democrats, of which he is one of them. So I'd like to talk that with him about his candidacy, with that stuff. But I also want to talk to him about Virginia, because Virginia has become a very interesting place in terms of redistricting, in terms of pushing back against the village idiot, Donald Trump, and his efforts to cheat in the 2026 midterms with the redistricting he started in Texas. And Virginia is kind of the hot spot on that right now. So I'd love to get his feedback on that. So, Gamer Vet Dad, it's Axios and a local NBC affiliate, or I'll see what I can. I'll look it up. Well, while my son's at swim practice, I have to post a few posts on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. But I'll look that up too. So yeah, please join. Make sure you're with us on Tuesday too, because I think it's going to be a really informative live. I love you guys. 1 minute at a time, 1 hour at a time, 1 day at a time, one live at a time. Keep chunking through it, guys. I know it feels like this is never going to fucking end, but we're over a year into it, and who the fuck thought we would make it this far? We're gonna get through it. Just take what you can. Take your deep breaths. Oh, Sunday. Also, I think we're tentatively about 11 o'clock. I will confirm that with you. If you guys are free, it's going to be me and Ritu and Miss Patty Ann are going to be doing that wellness live. So, if you're free on the weekend and available, mark your calendars for that one as well. I'll see you guys soon. Much love. Thank you for everything, as always.